So as we start with real numbers, okay, first thing. Now you guys joke and you say, well, if that's a real number, what's not a real number? I'm going to show you what I mean by not a real number. There are some things that are not a real number, okay? Well, it just doesn't exist. Like it can't. It is something that can't happen. Okay, hold on. Okay, so first thing, rational number. Okay, a rational number is a number, this is important, that can be expressed as a fraction. Okay? A number that can be expressed as a fraction. So, if I had the number 2, okay, is there a way I could express number 2 as a fraction? Can I express 2 as a fraction?
Yes.
How can I do that? Can I do 2 over 1?
Yes.
Is that a fraction? Can I do 4 over 2? Is that a fraction? Okay, so any number that's a number like that, I can. What about negative 3? Can I express negative 3 as a fraction?
Yes.
Negative 3 over 1. Did I express it as a fraction? Okay. 0.25. Can I express 0.25 as a fraction? What would that be? 1/4, right? Or,
What can't you?
I'll get there.
Yeah, but then that would make sense.
Okay. All of these numbers, even if it's a decimal, I can still express it as a fraction. Okay? Makes sense so far? So, all of these are rational numbers. Okay? Even 0. Can I express 0 as a fraction? 0 over 1, right? Right? Okay. All of those are rational numbers. Now, so if all of those numbers give me any number. Trey, give me any number. 17. Is 17 a rational number? 17 over 1, right? Okay. Negative 2.5, is that a rational number? Because I can express it as negative 2.5, right? Okay. So, pretty much any number you think of, is it rational? Yes. So your question was, what is not a rational number? Okay. If it's not a rational number, what is it called? It's called an irrational number. Okay? So an irrational number, does anybody have any idea what an irrational number is? I talked about it a little bit when we first started talking about perfect squares. No? Okay, take out your calculator for me. Take out your calculator. Okay, so if I asked you in your calculator, okay, if I said, I'm going to erase this part, okay, if I said tell me if this is a rational number. Okay, do you think that's a rational number?
No.
No?
Yes.
What? See if you can find the square root of 1024. What is it? Huh? 32. Can I express 32 as a fraction?
Yes.
Yes, I can. Because 32 over 1 is a fraction, isn't it? So is that rational?
Yes.
Yes. So perfect squares are rational. What if I said is this rational? What's the cube root of 19,683? Look at your sheet. Somebody tell. I'm going to save some time. It's 27. Is 27 rational?
Yeah.
Yes, because I can express it as a what? Fraction. Okay. Now, if you would, on your calculators, try to find the square root of 2. Okay? Bless you. Is 2 a perfect square? No. Find the square root of 2. Tell me what you get.
1.4123356.
I don't know what it is, but no matter what, that number is never going to stop. Okay?
What?
Square root of 2 is 2.
You forgot the
Is that one of my calculators?
No.
Oh, okay. Noah, help him out. Okay. Your computer, it might be rounding, I don't know. But even if it rounded, it wouldn't be. Okay, so here's the point. Does that number, if it never ends, can you express it as a fraction?
No.
You cannot, okay? So what is an irrational number is anytime you try to find the square root, write this down, the square root of, okay, what is wrong with me? Of a number that isn't a perfect square. Okay, so anytime you try to find the square root of a number that's not a perfect square, it is irrational. In other words, that number, there's no number I can multiply times itself to get 2. I could multiply 1.4123561111213. I could multiply that times itself, and I might get like 1.9999995, but it is not going to be exactly 2. Does that make sense?
So if it's not a full number?
If it's not a number, if it's not a perfect square, it's irrational. Okay, there's a very, very famous irrational number. Huh? Pi. Okay, this is an irrational number. But we use it a lot. Okay, but pi, does anybody know what? I mean, pi goes on and on forever. Okay, I've seen some people who memorize the first 100 digits of pi. Okay, that's great. 3.14, whatever comes after that. Okay, pi is an irrational number. Okay, do you understand the difference between a rational number and an irrational? Okay, I'll ask you guys again since you're ignoring me. Do you understand the difference between a rational number and an irrational?
Yes.
Okay. Next part. Okay. We have what's called a real number system. And what that means, okay, first of all, real numbers, okay, this, I'm going to make a box. Okay, this box includes all the real numbers. Real numbers. Write that down. Okay? Real numbers. Okay? Now, even if a number is irrational, you should listen to this, it's still a real number because is that a number that when I press the square root button for 2, did a number show up?
Yes.
Yes, it did. Okay? Okay, so that, if we break this into 2 parts, okay, we have rational numbers and we have irrational numbers. But both of these are real numbers, okay? So what is irrational? Pi, square root of 2, or any other number that's not a perfect square. You understand that, right?
Yes.
They're still real numbers, but they're irrational, okay? Now, does anybody know what a Venn diagram is?
Yes.
Okay, how do Venn diagrams work? A circle is part of what? Another circle, right? And they can overlap. That means that there's both. Okay, so we start with this circle. Okay, this. Okay, I need to make this bigger. I'm just going to put a line. This middle circle is what we call natural numbers. Does anybody know what natural numbers are? They're like your counting numbers. They're positive and they don't include 0. Okay, so what is that? 1, 2, 3, and so on and so forth. Okay? Positive, they don't include 0. You understand what natural numbers are? Yes? No?
Yes.
Okay. We will put here for natural numbers. Okay. Then we have a bigger circle, Okay, this one is whole numbers. Okay, what's the difference between a natural number and a whole number? Whole numbers are all of the natural numbers except they include what? 0. Okay. All
So 10, 20.
natural numbers also, though, includes 0. Okay? So if it's a natural number, is it also a whole number? Yes. You see how this circle is completely encompassed in this circle? That means all natural numbers are also whole numbers. Are all whole? What's the only whole number that's not a natural number? 0. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Then the next circle anybody have any idea what this is called? Integers. Okay? What are integers? Integers are natural numbers. They're whole numbers, but they also include what? All natural numbers, all whole numbers, but also include what?
0.
They already include 0 because they're all whole numbers. Huh? Negatives. Good. Okay. So that would be -5, -2, 0, 1, 3. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay, so this is integers. This is whole. Okay, you kind of understanding? Okay, and then outside of that, okay, does integers include fractions? Do you see any fractions or decimals up there?
No.
The rest of what makes up rational numbers are fractions and decimals. Okay, 0.52. Okay, or 11/12. Okay, does that make sense? So if I had a fraction, give me a fraction, Smear, that doesn't simplify to an integer. 3/5. Okay, would 3/5 fall in natural numbers? Class, would 3/5 fall in natural numbers? No. Would 3/5 fall in whole numbers? No. Would 3/5 fall in integers? No. Would 3/5 fall in rational numbers? Yes. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. If I asked Jane for a fraction and she said 10/5, okay, can 10/5 be simplified? What can 10/5 be simplified to?
1/2.
Not 5/10, 10/5. 10 over 5, what is that? 2, right?
Yeah.
Does 2 fall in natural numbers?
Yes.
Does 2 fall in whole numbers?
Yes.
Does 2 fall in integers? Does 2 fall in rational?
Yes.
Yes. Do you understand now? What if I asked Macy for a number and she said -6? Does -6 fall in natural numbers? Does it fall in whole numbers? Does it fall in integers? Yes. Are we semi-clear on this?
Is whole
Okay.
numbers just numbers that end in 0?
No. Whole numbers is all of the natural numbers, but the only difference is they include 0.
Okay.
So, like 15, that's a natural number, but it's also a whole number. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But 0 is not a natural number, it is a whole
Also, it
number.
has to be above 0.
Yes, has to be, it can't be negative. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at some examples. Are we kind of clear on this? Kind of understand? Okay. So let's take a look at some examples here. All right. So this one. Okay, this says determine whether -25 is rational or irrational. Okay, who said rational? If you say rational, raise your hand. If you say irrational, raise your hand. Okay, we'll do it again. If you say rational, it's one or the other. If you say rational, raise your hand. Okay, if you're not raising your hand, then you're saying irrational. So nobody says irrational? Why is that rational? Because I can express it as a what?
Or, fraction.
Fraction, right? If I put -25 over 1, is that possible?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. What about this number? Square root of 20. Is square root of 20 rational or irrational?
Rational. Wait. No.
Is square root of 20 rational or irrational? If you say rational, raise your hand. Okay, if you say irrational, raise your hand. Okay, Julia, why'd you say irrational?
Because it's not a perfect square.
Thank you, because 20 is not a perfect square. If you were to try to find the square root of 20, it is never going to stop. It's going to keep going. It's going to stop on your calculator because your calculator screen is this big. Does that make sense? Yes? Okay. All right. Real numbers. Okay, these are all real numbers. But I want to know which classifications this falls into. Okay, name all sets of the number in which 0.2525 belongs. Okay, look at that number. Is that a natural number?
No.
No. Why? Because there's a what?
Not counting. Yeah.
There is a rhymes with schmecimal decimal. Okay? And I can't simplify this to a single number, can I? Okay. Is that a whole number?
No.
Is that an integer?
No.
Is that rational? Why not rational?
Yes.
Yeah, it'll stop.
Yes.
I mean, it's a repeating, right? Okay, I could express this as a fraction. Okay, 25 over 99 would express this as a fraction. So the only thing that is what? Rational. Okay. All right.
So it's still a rational number if it's just like
If it repeats, because you can express it over, I'll show you how that works. Okay. Well, I guess we know that one. Okay. What does this belong to? Negative 2 2/5.
rational.
Okay, it's not a natural, a whole, or an integer, is it? It's a rational number. Why? Because it's already a what? Fraction? Okay, good, very good. All right, what about this one? Name all the sets to which the real number, the square root of 36, belongs.
Oh, I know.
What is it?
It's a natural number.
And what else?
It's a whole number.
What else?
Integer.
What else?
Rational.
Rational. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because the square root of 36 is what? 6. Good. All right, I told you this is easy.